you got to realize that whatever you're doing, you're competing with somebody. What is it that gives you an advantage over your competition? Whatever you're good at, try to be great at it. And if you're great at it, good things will happen.
Maverick Podcast.
I'm far from average. That's why I had to come sit down and chop it up with DJ Maverick. They know my name from coast to coast and even in Dallas. I use my talent when I'm faced with a challenge. Gratitude strength is my magnet. Close your eyes and imagine. If you can see it in your mind, then you can have it.
Maverick Podcast.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. You could have been anywhere in the world, but you're here with us. This is the Maverick Podcast. I'm your host, DJ Maverick. Today, we have another super episode for you guys. We have this super talented journalist and photographer, the one and only Yesenia Jimenez. Welcome to the podcast.
Hello, thanks for having me.
Before we get started, for the 1% of the people out there that don't know who you are, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure, yeah. So like you just said, my name is Yesenia Jimenez. I am from the Panhandle. I was born in Guyman, Oklahoma, but I graduated high school in Woodward, and I moved to OKC like 4 years ago now. So yeah, I write, I take photos, I take videos, anything creative. That's what I like to do.
I love that.
Yeah,
what came first, the journalism or the photography? What came first for you?
The journalism, the writing.
Okay.
And even before writing, like I was I would consider myself just a generally creative person. Mm-hmm. I played music for a long time.
No way.
Yeah.
What did you play?
I played clarinet and band.
Awesome.
But I was very dedicated to it. Mm-hmm. And I was so sure that I was going to pursue music professionally. Yeah. And then I pivoted and I was like, you know what, I'm going to write. So that's what I'm doing now. And I still play music here and there. I picked up piano. Okay. Which, you know, if you play music, if you were trained classically, I would say that once you learn how to read music, it's very easy to pick up other instruments. And so
even piano, you think so?
Even piano. I mean, I didn't know how to read like bass clef, but picking it up. So like that's a whole different language for me, but it's the same concept, you know?
That's what gets me because, you know, your left hand has to do the bass and then you're doing the melody with your right. My left hand doesn't want to do anything. So I've tried it and it's like, no, like, I don't know. My left hand is just not good. I
would say that's the biggest challenge right now. Cause I picked up piano and and I'm very much still I'm still a beginner. So I would still say that bass clef is something that I'm still learning, but you know, that's what I like about music is there's always like something new.
What kind of music do you like to play on the piano?
Yeah, so I learned how to play Baby Moonlight Sonata. Okay. Because one of the main reasons I wanted to pick up piano is that I could like learn to play some of those like classical pieces that are, you know, that everyone tries to pick up. So just like classical music. That's what I like to play. But I would like to play like more pop. I think that would be really fun to pick up too.
Yeah, that would be awesome. So you said that you pivoted from music to writing. What drove that decision?
I think it was just the logical next step. Just because I guess it wasn't such a hard pivot because I write just for fun. Like I have a journal that I write in. And I was like, you know, this is something I could possibly be good at. And I like storytelling. And I'm a huge news junkie. So it was just like, okay, I like writing. I like the news. Yeah. Let's put the two together.
Yeah. And journalism has changed so much, right? So was that like your major going into school or what was your official major?
Yeah, so when I started my bachelor's degree, I was originally a health science major. Okay. It's so random. Like I took, I was wanting to be a physician's assistant, and I just didn't feel like my calling was there. And then I switched to a Bachelor of Arts in Communications with a minor in public relations. So yeah, that's my college background. And then I worked at the newspaper on campus too. And so that's where my news background kind of came in. But I also had like the PR minor. So I was like, I could also do PR. Okay. But that's what I liked about communications is that you could really go many different routes. And so I chose journalism.
Yeah, 1,000%. But I would say that those are two different muscles, right? So you've got the creative, maybe social media, PR writing, And then you've got the journalistic of like events and news writing, right? Would you say that those are two different muscles, or for you, writing is writing?
Yeah, and writing is writing. Of course, there are different muscles and there are different intentions behind the two different styles. I mean, obviously, if you're writing for PR, you're writing for marketing, like you are trying to like persuade somebody.
Yeah.
And then with journalism, it's like you are telling a story, and then you're also informing an audience. So,
And try to not be biased, right? Like,
right,
just report the
and you
news,
have to
right?
take yourself out of it too.
Yeah.
So you have to be like objective on the journalism side, and then you have to be like, just a little more persuasive on the PR and marketing side.
Yeah.
So working those two different muscles, it's very interesting. But it's something that I enjoy a lot. I think when it comes to writing, you could get creative with it. And that's why I like doing it. And not just the writing too. I like producing. Like
Okay.
I like working with different elements. Like, you have video and then you have photos. And with social, you have like designing graphics, putting carousel posts together.
Yeah.
Things like that. I think that's kind of where I am at right now in my career, is that I can encompass all these different things that I'm good at and tell a story with it.
That's super cool because, like, you're right. Today's age, you're kind of hands-on with everything, right? It's multimedia. I would say back in the day, you've got like a traditional newspaper. You've got the photographer that goes, takes the pictures, comes back, gives it to the writer, right? So there's like a distinct role there,
No,
right?
exactly. I think that's where the industry is at today too. Like, if you want to practice journalism, like, definitely be well versed in doing a variety of things. Like, be a good writer, be a good producer. Do you know how to use Canva? Do you know how to edit audio? Just things like that. You have to have a broader tool set now than you might have had to maybe 20 years ago.
In sports events, and they're taking pictures and editing on their phone and then like shooting it over. That way it's like on Instagram or whatever, like immediately. That's super impressive to me.
Yes. No, I encountered that situation today where I needed something pretty quickly to publish online. And I was just like, hey, do you have this ready for me? Like, how soon could you get it for me? Because, you have a sense of urgency when it comes to things like breaking news.
Yeah, especially nowadays, right? It's almost like we're getting news as it's happening, especially with like X and like all these news, like threads, all these news sites, right?
Exactly. People are wanting to like get like live, up-to-date information, and that's where we are at right now with the internet. Like you're getting information at speeds in which you can't even process it. So it's very interesting to see how journalism and the news media has evolved now with the introduction of social media and the internet.
A story just with like the actual photo, right? How did you pick that up?
Yeah, so I actually bought my first like big camera this year. I bought it like in February, I think.
Okay.
And so I started going out and just shooting what I could.
What did you go with? What camera? I have to ask.
So I got the Sony A7 III.
Okay.
Yeah.
I love Sony. That's like their autofocus is like the go, if you ask me.
No, and especially with the flash too. Just the colors show up so well. And I couldn't have asked like a better camera to start with. I do want to get one of the Canon, Canon G7. Oh, the power.
Oh, like
the power shot.
Those
Yes,
are
the
coming
Canon
back,
power
right?
shots, yes.
They're like selling for like, I don't know, double, triple of like what they were back in the day.
Well, I don't know how much they were selling back in the day, but I tried looking at like some of the ones on Amazon, and they were going for like $800, $900.
And even like the G7X, I always see that like people are always asking for that one. It's like sold out, and people are like 2-3 times the price.
Yeah, because the thing with my Sony is that like obviously like the lens is detachable, and I have to carry like this big bag. But at least with like the power shots, it's just like one. Like you can put it in your pocket.
You know which one I like for that, for like a day-to-day, is the Fuji X106. Have you seen that one?
Oh my gosh, yes. Yeah. I also would like a Fuji camera. And now, ever since I picked up
Sounds
photography,
like we're both into like cameras.
No, ever since I picked up photography, I'm like, oh, I want that camera next. I want that camera next.
It's a slippery slope.
I know. thoughts and prayers for my bank account.
I like that. So you just picked up the camera and then you just like went out street photography, or what do you like to shoot?
I like to shoot portraits.
Okay.
You know, and this is not necessarily like related to my job, but I like to take pictures of my friends.
Okay.
That's probably what I have the most. Just like I'll bring my camera at like at a gathering, and I'll just start taking pictures of people. And my friends are always happy to see what I was able to pull.
Yeah.
Just out of a short time that we spent together.
But now are they expecting, like, hey, Yesenia, did you bring your camera? Like, are they expecting
I don't know. I don't think they're like, oh, like bring your camera. Yeah. I bring it sometimes anyway, and like sometimes like I don't want to pull it out too because I feel like people kind of start acting a little different.
Yeah, especially if it's a bigger camera, right?
Yeah,
that's where like those power shots would
whoa,
just be like,
yeah,
like
no,
candid,
exactly,
right?
and that's why I would want the power shot just to be a little more discreet with it.
Yeah. Did you ever get into like concert photography? I think that would be cool, but I think to take a camera, you have to have like a press pass, right?
Yeah, I would like to get into concert photography because I love concerts too. I go to a ton of them, and there are so many moments where I'm like, dang, like I wish I could have captured that with a professional camera.
Yeah. You were telling me you're about to go to like a big festival, right?
Yes. No, in a couple weeks, I'm going to 3 Points in Miami, which is this techno festival. I've never been. Usually I go to like the big festivals like Lollapalooza or ACL.
You've been to those?
Yes.
That's awesome.
And those are huge.
Yeah.
And I feel like 3 Points is a smaller festival, which would be ideal. Sometimes those big ones they're overwhelming. But yeah, no, I'm going to 3 Points in Miami. It's like a EDM techno festival. It's the first type of techno festival I've ever been to, so awesome. I'm excited.
Who are you excited to see there at the festival?
So I'm excited to see Kay Tronada. There's another artist. I want to say her name is Sarah Landry.
Okay.
And who else? Arca.
Mm-hmm.
Gosh, I just like forgot all the artists.
I put you on the spot.
I know.
and they're like sort of like slammed, I'm sure, back to back.
Yes. Right? Yeah, no. I'm excited to go, and I've never been to Miami either.
That's awesome.
But yeah, there's like that huge hurricane about to like hit Florida. I think it's gonna miss Miami.
Hope
but
so.
Still, thoughts and prayers to Florida.
Yeah. So you're big into music as well. Like, is that sort of like your other creative side? I know you mentioned the piano and playing instruments, stuff like that.
Yeah. No. Music. I want to dive into that a little more. At least like in school, like I had a dedicated time to like practice and really build onto that craft. But now that I have a full-time job and have bills to pay, I don't have. I haven't really been intentional about diving into that creative side more. But I do have a keyboard at home. I still have my instrument, so it's there.
Very cool.
I just need to put the time aside to expand on those skills. And also, I would eventually like to learn how to DJ.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, wow. Like I want to learn how to mix music.
Awesome.
But yeah, music is definitely that other creative part of my life that I want to invest a little more in.
Yeah. Was there somebody that was like just, into music or writing or anything like that? Do you have any influences there?
I will say that, I would say I think my mom, I feel like she has like that creative side to her. She likes to sing a lot.
Okay.
And I remember vaguely there were moments in like middle school she would help me write essays, and I was actually surprised. I was like, Mom, you write very well. Like that was very descriptive. I like how you put that sentence together. So I think my mom has that creative side, and then my dad, he's like a kind of like a history buff. Like he really likes to learn about like I don't know, like the Aztecs or like he likes to watch the History Channel. Yeah. I bought him a history book recently, actually. But yeah, those are my parents. So I think my mom's like very like creative, and then my dad is like a little more logical.
Okay. So it sounds like you got a little mix of both. It sounds
yeah. I think I have a mix of both of them, really.
Yeah. So what are your thoughts on like present day news, especially with the algorithm, right? I don't know. Sometimes it feels like to me, if I interact with stuff, even if I don't like it, it shows up in my feed just because I interact. And it's almost like they're trying to like get you to engage one way or the other. I don't know how you feel.
Yes. No, I see it all the time, even with my personal social media algorithm, because I spend a lot of time on TikTok and Instagram Reels. And I love my social media feeds. I feel like they're curated specifically to me.
Okay, so you got them fine-tuned, because sometimes I get like this random stuff and I'm like, what?
I'm like, they know me so well. Like, how is it possible? But yes, they're like pulling your data and they're like seeing how much time you spend on a post. But unfortunately, like, you know, my feed is not the best source of local news.
Yeah.
Sure, like here and there, you know, you'll find like news commentary. But that's why I appreciate the people who work in the industry that I work in, because they work very hard to verify the news that they gather. And, you know, how would I say it? Like, they are not incentivized to get clicks, you know? And so that's the interesting thing, that even though like your algorithm is designed to, you know, push out content that you would typically engage with, sometimes there are holes in that, or maybe like just because you wouldn't engage with this particular content doesn't mean you shouldn't see it. But I think in the industry that I work in, we are trying very hard to make news a little more engaging with the audience we want to reach. Like, for example, we want to reach young people. So how do we make our social media more engaging so that they'll want to read the news and also stay up to date with the things that are going on in their community? So we're incorporating like more short form videos, more social media type curated news feeds. So I think it'll be interesting to see how how the industry innovates to reach these digital users.
Yeah, because I think all the younger generations, I want to say probably TikTok is where they're getting the majority of the news. I don't know if you feel the same way.
Yeah, no, and there are news accounts on TikTok that I follow. Like, for example, there's the Morning Brew, and they do more like business type news. And then the Washington Post does a really good job of you know, creating vertical videos. You know, it's like short form content, but it's exactly what you need to know, which is an interesting thing to balance, especially when you work like at a print publication where, you know, you'll write a 1,000-word story. Where it's like, well, how are you gonna, you know, condense this like large story into a 30-second video?
Right.
So I think that's the fun part too. You know, you got to get a little creative with it.
Yeah. So you're hands-on with both the like social media aspect and then the actual like print side of things, or what?
Yeah, I think you kind of have to be. I mean, I'm more on the digital side of things.
Okay.
With my job. But the print side also takes a lot of hands too. So I would say I have like maybe an equal, you know, footing in both parts.
Yeah.
But I would say the most exciting part for me is the digital side.
What do you feel about like sometimes I see like official accounts that say like ESPN or NBA and they're sharing memes, and you can tell like it's probably like a younger person running their social media. To me, it's kind of cool, but sometimes you're wondering like, did they get hacked? Like, what's going on? They just have like this meme, right?
Like Duolingo is a very interesting example of something like that being executed. But I find myself wanting to experiment, because I also run an official account. And sometimes I want to test the boundaries of what I can post, but at the same time, I'm like, listen, I don't want anybody sending me an email about, you know, what I just posted. So I don't know, that you have to be careful with that. But that's also like the PR side of my brain being like, don't do anything stupid.
ESPN during COVID, when there wasn't much sports going on, they were posting like people in their backyard, like doing this trick shot or something like that. I don't know if you saw any of that. So it was like, what? This is ESPN, but it's like a random kid in his backyard, like dunking or something.
Yeah, like sharing like more viral moments.
Yeah.
I will say like when Twisters, the movie, was shooting in Oklahoma City, and like when they hosted the red carpet in Oklahoma City, I did pull a lot of viral moments from that, just like that short amount of time, like an interview with like, what's that actor's name in Twisters? Is it Glenn Powell?
Okay.
Yeah, no, everybody loves him. And so, you know, sometimes I'm like, okay, well, we have a talking head and he's saying like something really funny and this video went viral, but it's like, how can you recreate that? How can you recreate content like that? We don't have red carpets often, so how can you recreate these viral moments, but also make it newsworthy?
Yeah. So you were able to attend like the grand opening and the red carpet for that? Like,
I attended the red carpet for a little bit, but we had other photographers there that actually had press passes to be there. But I did get to go in for a little bit and just kind of catch a glimpse of the red carpet for a little bit. Yeah.
Cool. I guess maybe a question I have for you: what are some of your favorite sources for news and stuff like that you like to follow?
Yes. No. I have many. I like the LA Times. I like the Washington Post, the New York Times. Social media accounts. There's this social media based news account called Impact. And I would say they cover more of the kinds of like a lot of pop culture news.
Yeah.
I enjoy seeing how creative they get with their social media posts. They do a lot of carousels, and they make their news very engaging. And so I like to see the stuff they have going on and like be like, okay, that's a good idea. Like, how can I execute this in a similar way?
Yeah. For me, what I'm sort of looking for is maybe an account that experiments with both cultures too. Like somebody that is messing around with like, okay, I understand like the Hispanic culture, but you also grew up in the US. Let's combine that, right? Because I'm aware of both cultures. It would be cool if somebody did that.
Yes.
Right?
Oh, yes, that reminds me. The Los Angeles Times has this zine called De Los.
Okay.
And they do exactly what you're talking about. They incorporate that Chicano culture into their news. And they do like a lot of entertainment news, news about the culture. But you should definitely check it out.
Awesome.
They have they have their social media account, and then they have a printed zine, which is really cool.
That's cool. Yeah, because I think sometimes they forget about people that like, yeah, they're aware of both cultures. They enjoy both cultures. Why not have that together, right? Because that's what makes you like unique, I think, knowing about both cultures, right?
Yes. Yeah. No, I think when I see something like that, like a space where they incorporate both cultures, which I think we're trying to do that here in Oklahoma City too, which is very exciting.
Awesome.
I've met other creatives, like you and, other photographers and videographers here who are also Latino and but also born here, and they try to incorporate both sides of themselves into the art that they produce.
Yeah.
And I find that very inspiring. I think in a way, like there could be a renaissance of that same sort of thing just here at home. But yeah, I agree with you. I would like to see more of that.
Yeah, definitely. What about fatigue, right? Because you being in news, I'm sure you're always like having to stay up to date. Do you ever just get fatigued? Like, especially like if you think of now, right? It's like Diddy, 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 right? And like I'm like tired of hearing of Diddy, right?
Yes.
But sometimes like that gets into your algorithm and like it's just hard to escape it, right?
No, that's you talk about Diddy. I've seen so much Diddy content like in the past week.
Yeah, it's crazy.
But no, I do I feel you on the fatigue because sometimes, and I have a difficult time doing this, but just disconnecting from my feed, disconnecting from, the news for a little bit. Just because, like, you got to go touch some grass here and there. What's going on at home, check in on your family, check in on your friends, and just ground yourself on what's around you. And I feel like that really helps me just kind of come back into reality.
And you don't feel like maybe, I should be like, researching right now. I should be keeping up to date. Like, because you have an excuse, like that's your job, right? You have to stay up to date, right?
No, and even like when I do disconnect, there's like a gnawing pressure, like, oh, well, like maybe you could do this when you decide to like log back online. And I'm like, no, I decided to disconnect. Like, so I'm still trying to figure out what that looks like, honestly. Because even when I do disconnect, sometimes I don't entirely disconnect. Like in the back of my head, I'm still like, this is what I need to do. So,
okay.
What about you? Do you find yourself kind of in the same?
Yeah, definitely.
situation?
I think, it's like almost like if we have any moment where there's not much going on, like let's say you're grabbing a coffee and you're in line, like the immediate impulse is like, I'm going to pull up my phone, even if it's just a few seconds to like check IG real quick or whatever. Check
I
TikTok,
find myself
right?
too, like sometimes I can't sit in like complete silence.
Exactly. Yeah. Or like if you're watching TV, like I watch sports. That's usually when I only watch like live TV now is sports. Like if they go to like commercials and it's like I'm gonna pull up social media during commercials. I don't know if you do that.
Yes, no, I do. Because like, for example, like I was watching the OU Tennessee game and I was doing the same thing. Once commercials would come on, I'm like, well, I wonder what people are saying online about this game.
It is fun because it almost feels like you're watching the game together with like the internet. So if like something happens during the game, like the memes and everything are happening in real time, right?
Yeah, no, and even like with the presidential debate too, that was fun to watch, and it was also fun to like read people's reactions too. Yeah, because like there was no commercial break. It was like when the debate stops, I'm gonna scroll through X for a little bit and see what people are saying.
Yeah.
So I do get that. Not even being able to sit in silence for a little bit.
If I put you on the spot, what's your favorite sort of platform for social media?
I'm in between. Oh my gosh. Well, I just got back into YouTube also.
Okay.
But I'm a diehard TikTok user.
Okay.
That's where I'm at. I don't post on there. I like to see what people are posting. People are so creative with the TikTok trends and the dances and
I think having that limitation of like you got to be quick with it and like get straight to the point, that sort of forces people to be more creative, right?
Yeah, and I find it interesting because I do post on TikTok for work occasionally, but I find that it's a lot harder to get engagement on TikTok than it is on Reels.
Okay.
I feel like TikTok is more for like very niche interests, like people who do like, they have like one niche thing that they do and, they just like post it. Whereas Reels is like, I feel like it's more of a free for all. I don't know what the differences in the algorithms are for either platform.
Yeah, it's funny that you say that because I would say for me personally, for what I'm doing with the podcast, it's probably the opposite. I get a lot of engagement on TikTok with like just the highlight reels and I do like on IG reels. So it's kind of interesting, but it's definitely a different algorithm. And sometimes I think on TikTok, it doesn't matter like the number of followers. Sometimes you'll land on like somebody's For You page just because of the algorithm. And I think that's what's cool about TikTok. It's like all of a sudden your video could go viral, not necessarily based on who follows you.
Yeah. And I've always thought that about TikTok too. Cause like I see everybody's posts on my For You page. It doesn't matter who I follow. So I'm like, why
like just some random account, right?
Yeah, it's just some random account. So I'm like, why won't my stuff go viral?
Favorite platforms and which one?
Oh
you enjoy
yes,
the most?
no. So TikTok would be my number one, and then IG Reels. What's after that? I'm not on Snapchat anymore. I don't really get on X anymore. Oh, and then Facebook. I like Facebook for the Facebook group.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. I wasn't expecting that one.
No, I mean, it's nice to see posts from people back at home.
Yeah.
But also, there are so many different niche Facebook groups. Like, for example, like I'm in the Spiders of Oklahoma Facebook group.
What is that?
Where people are like, oh my gosh, what kind of spider is
Oh,
this?
really? Okay.
Yeah, and I find those like really interesting.
Yeah.
What else? There's beauty Facebook groups where like girls talking about like what kind of makeup are you using?
Yeah.
And what are you wearing?
Interesting. I would expect like whenever I speak to sort of like younger generations, they're like not about the Facebook. They're like more about TikTok. But that's interesting that you're like sort of leveraging the groups for like a specific niche, right?
Yes, no, and then there's like a Facebook group like called like Oklahoma City Group for Women by Women, and you get to read a lot of unique stories from just women in different situations, different phases of their life, where they're like, hey, listen, then people are so open in there.
Yeah.
Like, and that's what I like. You get like raw storytelling in these Facebook groups. Like people are spilling their heart out.
Yeah, you're like, okay, I'm going to see this tea here.
Yes, no, it's where all the chismes at. Really, that's where it's at. And so that's why I like Facebook, for the Facebook groups, not particularly for like individual posts.
I would say probably the only rabbit hole I go down on Facebook is Marketplace. Like even if I don't want to buy anything, I just like to see like what people are posting and how much they're asking. And then I always go to the comments where like the guy's like, I'm not budging, this is it. And then they just go like fighting in the comments. It's pretty funny.
No, Facebook Marketplace is so funny. Like I'll see people selling the most random things. Like, I saw some guy selling a tumbleweed once. Like he was selling a tumbleweed for like $20. I'm
And he's like, I know what I got. Don't try to negotiate.
no. Facebook Marketplace is another. That's also why I like Facebook because they have the marketplace too.
Yeah. Tell me about the Hispanic Journalist Conference.
I went to Los Angeles for NAHJ, the National Association of Hispanic Journalists Conference.
Mm-hmm.
And it was my first solo trip ever. I was just by myself in Los Angeles, and I would consider myself to be pretty introverted, so I didn't think I was going to meet anybody.
Okay.
But surprisingly, like everybody was kind of exactly like me.
No way.
So they were like willing to strike up conversations over like random things.
Yeah.
And I don't know. But I befriended quite a few people, and it was eye-opening for me because it's not often, and I think like here in Oklahoma, it's not often that you encounter spaces where everybody is just like you.
True.
And I was like, maybe this is a Los Angeles thing, like because I find that people who live in like places like Los Angeles and Miami or like Chicago, they're like, oh yeah, like like Latinos are everywhere. Like it's not an issue to find people who look like you in a professional setting. But NAHJ was very eye-opening for that reason.
Mm-hmm.
So that was eye-opening for me. And then also just to meet people who do the same thing that I do, who work in journalism and who like telling stories. And then I will say I got lost in Los Angeles like my last day there.
No way. How did that happen?
Yeah, so I was dropping off a friend because I was like, hey, like my phone's going to die. Like I need to go back to the hotel and pack. So I'm on my way back to the hotel. I try to connect my phone to the charger and my phone won't charge. And so it dies as I'm trying to make my way into
And you're
downtown.
like in LA traffic?
Yes, I'm in the LA traffic. And my hotel was in downtown.
Yeah.
And so I found myself lost in downtown, which was like very scary.
Were you like panicking?
Yes, I was panicking. Like I checked my gas tank and I had like 100 miles left. And I was like, listen, I'm in downtown, but I'm not in the part of downtown I need to be.
Was it like a sketchy area?
Yeah, I mean, there were a couple times where I found myself having to do like U-turns because I'm like, okay, this I'm not supposed to be here. So I found myself like making U-turns a couple times. What was supposed to be just a 15-minute drive back to the hotel turned into an hour.
How did you do it? You just like went driving in circles?
Yeah, I mean, I saw one of the metro buses and I was like, maybe I can follow this bus on a route and then, maybe, and sure enough, like I followed the bus and I was lucky enough to have remembered the street signs.
Yeah.
And so I found my hotel.
I like it. I like the creative thinking. I wouldn't have thought of that. That's awesome.
No, and like I called my mom right after it and I was like, Mom, like I got lost in Los Angeles, but guess what? I knew my street signs. I knew where to go.
That's awesome.
And she's like, oh, wow, like good for you.
Yeah.
And and I charged my phone and like sure enough that was also the day that there was like an attempted unaliving of the former president.
Oh, that's when it happened.
That's when it happened. I had like turned my phone around. I was like, oh, I wonder what happened.
And then like your phone's like blowing up. Oh, wow.
Yeah. So that was that was very it was scary, but also it made me feel like I can trust myself, because you end up in that situation. You think in your head, like, oh, what if this happens? Like, you don't know how you're going to react until you're in that moment.
And that's another point, right? Like now we like depend on the phone so much that we don't know how to navigate without the phone, right?
Exactly. Because I always have my Apple Maps on, and this was like the one situation where it was like, wow, like learning your street signs is really important.
Yeah. Did you explore any of the food scene? Because I always see like, speaking of like, Instagram and stuff like that, the LA food scene is amazing.
Yes,
right?
No, a few years back, like before I had ever even thought of stepping foot in Los Angeles, I had encountered this food account called, I think it was called Asadero Chicali.
Okay.
And I had just been following their page because their food always looks so good. Yeah. And I was like, if I am ever by chance in Los Angeles, like I'm going to go to this place. It's just like taqueria in East LA. I think it's called Asadero Chicali. And they just do like, they do like chicharrones and frijoles charros and just
is it like,
like different
traditional, or do they do like sort of like
traditional?
Okay.
Yes, it's traditional. Like think of like asadero and like chicharrones and like all these different like asaderos that you can make, and they turn them into like different burritos, different bowls and stuff like that. And I'll have to put you on, because if you look at the photos of their food, it's so good. Yeah. And I finally got to try their food, and it's just as good as it looks.
Wow, that's very cool.
No. So the food scene, I wish I could have stayed longer. I spent most of the time at the hotel where the conference was at.
Okay.
Or else I would have explored it a little more. But I did get to try the one place that I had been eyeing. So
that's cool. Because what I see too is they experiment with a lot of fusion. So I think the other day I saw some birria egg rolls. And I thought that was a kind of cool combo. So I see that in LA too. Sometimes Texas, maybe I should put you on the spot. I don't know if you have compared both, like who has the best food, Texas versus Cali. What do you think?
Gosh, I mean, if I would have spent more time in California, I would probably have like a better opinion.
Yeah, true.
But I mean, my heart's in Texas just because like my mom's from Texas.
Okay.
So I would probably say like Texas probably has better food. I mean, it's right by the border. It makes more sense, Yeah. But then again, so is South California.
Right. Yeah, it's tough. It's always like you get one way or another. But then I think like seafood, marisco, stuff like that, for sure, Cali. But then Texas, you think about the barbecue, you think about the tacos. I don't know. It's tough, right?
Yeah, I guess I would probably have to go back to Los Angeles and check out the food scene a little more.
Yeah. What about the food scene here? Like a lot of pop-ups have been like happening here too. A lot of collabs, which has been cool to see, and a lot of new restaurants too.
Yes. No, I think Oklahoma City's blessed with some of the best food out there. And like I will say, I have some favorites. Like I think of like Szechuan Story for like if I want like stir fry or noodles, and then like if I want like Café Cacao, like I love that place.
Yeah, shout out to them.
No, but we have an amazing food scene in Oklahoma City. I can't seem to remember specific places off the top of my head, but I like every weekend I find myself at a new spot.
Just like, what's your favorite cuisine that you enjoy?
Favorite cuisine? Yeah. Well, I'm biased because I'm Hispanic. I would say Mexican, Hispanic food, but also like Chinese food.
Okay.
Chinese food. I'm a huge Chinese food person. I love noodles, sushi.
The ramen spot downtown is probably my favorite.
Oh yes, I don't know why I can't remember any of my places.
I'm putting you on the spot.
I have them all like on a list here. But no, I mean I live in central Oklahoma City, so I feel like I'm close to everything. My thing right now is like coffee shops, just going to different coffee shops around the city, and also coffee shops that also have breakfast too.
Okay.
Like, that's my spot. That's where you will find me on a Saturday morning. Yeah.
Do you feel like whenever you're writing, you have to have like a coffee or something to be more creative?
Always.
Yeah. Walk me through that process when you're writing. How do you do it?
Yeah, like I will get my coffee, I'll sit down, and usually I have a lot of planning to do because I do a lot of the scheduling also. So my morning starts out with scheduling.
Okay.
And then I think the writing comes in the afternoon. Unfortunately, after I've had my coffee crash.
Are there like deadlines? Do you have like to have like certain amount of stories, or does it depend on what's going on in the news that day?
It depends on what's going on that day. Like today, for example, I had a video to work on in the morning, and then in the afternoon, I had my newsletter and then social media scheduling. Okay. Yeah, so it's very much like it's a little bit of everything, and then writing comes at the end of the day.
Got it. So you're also doing some of the video editing as well?
Yes. No, I do. I do. Like my hands are in a lot of pots.
It sounds like it. Yeah. That's cool. Like I would enjoy that. Like experimenting with the different mediums, I think I would enjoy that.
Yeah, I think that's why I like my job so much, because I don't have to do just one thing. I can do many things.
Have you been having to like teach yourself, or you kind of already had these skills where you like, because of your photography, you kind of were exposed to like video editing as well, or what?
Yeah, so I did a little bit of like graphic design and like page design in college. And also like I worked with like Adobe Audition, so like I also edited like a few like podcast type content. And so this job is definitely like building onto that. But I am self-taught, on a lot of things. So yeah, like I have to teach myself a lot of things like every day.
Yeah. Do you struggle with like maybe you have like your favorite editor, but then like the company uses like a specific editor and you have to learn how to use that platform?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So like the company does my company has a different video software than the one I personally like to
Yeah.
use. Like I love CapCut Pro.
Okay.
And so that's kind of what I use to edit my videos, and then I kind of have to transfer my
Yeah.
finished product onto the software
Okay.
that the company
Yeah, because
has.
you pick up the shortcuts and everything. Like I like Final Cut, right? And if like the company used like Premiere Pro or something, like I would be like, oh, okay, where's the menu? Where do I do this? Like all those shortcuts, you have to relearn everything.
Yeah, no. And I think that's where the self-learning comes from too. Cause like, I mean, and I feel like a lot of the shortcuts are a little universal, like,
Yeah.
cutting video and like, separating audio and editing that. Like, I feel like once you start with Adobe, you learn all that mechanical, technical stuff,
Sure.
just transferring to maybe a more user-friendly software is pretty easy to do.
Yeah.
Like I love Canva, versus using InDesign. Like if you told me to design something on InDesign, like
You're like, no way.
listen, no, like
Yeah.
let me do this instead.
Yeah. Canva has been crushing it, but I think recently they changed their model to where like a lot of the features you have to pay for, right? So a lot of people were upset about that.
Yeah, no, and and then the same thing with like CapCut Pro too. I feel like that's kind of the route that a lot of these like more user-friendly
Yeah.
softwares have decided to take. Like, oh well, you
like
like
a
this feature. Okay,
subscription.
well you better
Yeah.
pay like at least like $5 more.
Yeah. Do you get to cover everything? Like, is it news? Is it music? Is it food? Like all kinds of stuff? Or like, are you dedicated to a specific sort of segment?
Yeah, well, my role is like technically like a digital producer role. So just depending on the news of the day and like how many hands they need to cover, maybe like
Okay.
like for example, like a public meeting. They need more hands to maybe get the video, someone get the photo, someone
Yeah.
do the copy. It depends on that particular like the news of the day sort of thing.
Got
I
it.
could I can be pulled anywhere at any moment of any time. So
Okay. I was just wondering if maybe you got to like cover like concerts or something. That would be pretty
oh my
cool,
gosh, I'd
right?
love to get into concerts.
That'd be
No, I
pretty
like to
sweet.
do more concerts, honestly. If anything, like I feel like that would probably be my next venture is covering more music related stuff.
Yeah, definitely. What would be your advice to maybe some of the viewers that are wanting to explore like career in journalism? Because I always hear like it's a little bit different the way you have to apply. Like you almost have to have a portfolio, and especially if you're going to lean towards a social media site, they might ask you for like your actual social media. Hey, show us like what you've done in the past. I don't know if you experienced any of that, but like what would be your tips for people out there?
I would say definitely take when it comes to getting experience in journalism, it's a bit hard to break into because you have to have previous experience.
Yeah.
And also you have to display that you can, write about news objectively and like kind of take yourself out of it. And also when it comes to building a portfolio, don't be scared to, and I will say I feel like it's a lot easier at the same time to break into it because there's so many different ways you could go about it. There are many ways to be, a practicing journalist without necessarily having the writing all the way down. Maybe you're just a video person.
True.
Maybe you're
Yeah.
just a photographer.
Yeah.
So maybe find like one specialty, one thing that you consider yourself really good at and lean on that. And make sure your portfolio shows it. I talk about Canva. Canva's a really easy software to use, and you can build a website that way.
Yeah. And you can start on your phone.
Yeah,
right?
and you can start it on your phone. It's so
Yeah.
easy. You don't need a lot of fancy equipment to get started. Start a Substack.
Yeah.
Start a YouTube channel. Maybe you want to cover certain things. Maybe you just want to cover concerts. Maybe you just want to cover food. It's very easy to break into once you figure out what that one niche or one skill.
Definitely. And I think if you start to build that portfolio, like you can almost submit that with your application and be like, hey, this is what I can do. And it shows your creative side. A resume can't always tell that story, right? So if you have your social media, that would be a cool way to illustrate that.
Yeah, no. And social media is kind of where it's at right now because that is essentially your portfolio. It's everything you have on your socials or everything you have on a digital platform somewhere. Like maybe you have a Substack.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would say definitely figure out what your strengths are and lean on those. And also don't be afraid to like reach out to maybe someone like another professional and be like, hey, like, can you be my mentor? Like, teach me the ins and outs. Like, what do I need to know? That sort of thing.
Yeah, it reminds me, we were talking about the memes and everything. I don't know if you follow like Nutter Butter on TikTok, but they recently, like, I don't know if they hired like someone young to run their account, but their account has been going crazy.
No,
I don't know if you
I
saw
haven't
it.
seen Nutter
You
Butter.
need to check it out because like Nutter Butter, like they haven't really had like cultural relevance, right? Like when's the last time?
No,
you really saw
that's the
them,
thing.
right?
I've never heard of Nutter
But
Butter. Yeah.
all of a sudden they're like trending on TikTok. They're like posting all these weird videos and stuff. You can tell like they're having like a younger person run their like TikTok account, and all of a sudden people are talking about Nutter Butter. It's kind of cool. So I would say even that kind of stuff, like if you're like in tune with culture and with memes and stuff like that, there might be a role for that in the future. I definitely see what a lot of companies are experimenting with that.
No, yeah, and gosh, I don't even know if I should tell the story. No, I mean there are so many companies who are wanting to be more relevant to the younger audience.
Yeah.
And memes, that's a no-brainer. Yes,
Right.
like I feel like Gen Z loves to laugh. They love to crack up and just, but yeah, no, I think that's definitely true. The, social media production, being social media savvy. I feel like if you are on social media, like you kind of get an idea of what that's like.
Right. And understanding the culture, right? Because sometimes there's something going on in the news or something, and then you ride that wave.
I think of like the Diddy news and like, obviously like that's, insane, like what's going on with Diddy. But people are also riding that wave and like making jokes or like even pulling up like past news about Diddy. Like not only are they talking about just Diddy, they're talking about like Justin Bieber and they're talking about the Kardashians. Like, so there is a way when a huge breaking news happens, and it could come from any angle and many different storytelling type of styles.
Yeah. What would you say would be sort of your advice, or maybe what can companies do to get Hispanics to get more awareness of what's going on with the news? Sometimes what I see with our culture is sometimes we don't really pay attention. Like even think like something big as the elections. Sometimes they're not aware of like, hey, there's an election coming up. This is like this candidate. Maybe this is like what they're running on. This is what their platform is, right? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I will say that I think the most important thing is to question the information you see on unconventional platforms like social media. Don't believe everything you hear until you have verified it for yourself.
Yeah.
And then once you have all the facts together, because here's the thing, like Google exists, and this does not just apply to the Hispanic community. This applies just across the board to anybody. Like if you want to find out more about an issue, definitely research. Do your research on, the topics that you care about and, form your opinions on factual information.
Yeah.
That's what I would say. And then also, lean on the journalists in your community. There are often the people who are very close to the issues that you care about. So lean on that community as well, and then lean on, the leaders in your community as well, who might be well-versed on certain issues. Yeah,
1,000%. I think it would almost be cool to almost do a workshop, because what I see too, like some older generations in the Hispanic community, they don't really understand like how social media works, what's actual, what's not. Sometimes I see where they post like, I do not give permission to Facebook use my information or something, thinking that that's like legal ramifications or something. Like that's not how it works. Like, whenever you sign up in the agreement and the terms, that's where you say like, you can use this, you can use that. But then I always see like, it's almost like the old school email chain letter. If you don't forward this, it's years of bad luck. I often see that, right?
Yeah, no, and it's funny you say that, because like I also see, I don't know if you've encountered AI images on Facebook.
Yeah.
Like on your Facebook feed. For some reason, I'll get like an AI image pop up on my feed, and it'll be something random like, like an AI image like of a military serviceman being like, oh, I'm a World War I veteran. And, it's just something totally random, and people will think it's real, and it'll have like hundreds of thousands of likes and engagements.
Yeah.
And it's so obvious, at least to my
That's the thing,
eye,
right? Like, because
that it's fake.
we grew up with the
Yeah.
tech, we understand, but like, I think some older generations, they may not understand this is AI, this is altered, right?
Yeah, no, and that's, I think, that one of the dangers too with
Mm.
this AI technology is that it makes you think it's real, but
Yeah.
you really need to verify and make sure it is real, because
Yeah,
it could
definitely.
not.
Because
Sometimes.
I've also seen like even like news channels where they like are so quick to report something before checking out the facts, and then they have to roll it back.
Yeah.
I've seen that on official
Yeah.
accounts as well, right?
And I will say, like, news accounts, they do have a responsibility to
Mhm.
own up to when
Yeah.
they accidentally publish something that's not true.
Mhm.
You know, you can't say that for people in other mediums, but definitely your news channels, the journalists, there are consequences for when they get something wrong.
Yeah.
But I was thinking on the subject of AI, like someone released like this deep fake of Justin Bieber singing this song about a Diddy party,
Oh,
and
no.
like the news reported on it too, and they had to be like, by the way,
Jeez.
this song is not real. Like
Yeah.
it's a deep fake.
Yeah. I think that's going to continue to be a problem. I'm sure we'll figure it out eventually. But right now, AI is so like young and in the forefront that we're going to sort of experiment like, okay, what's real, what's not real. I always look at the hands. I always tell people when you look at a video, the hands and the eyes, for whatever reason, AI hasn't got that yet. So
I know, and that's the other funny thing, because like I'll see people reacting and like, you know, commenting on this very obvious AI image, and like the guy will have like a sixth
Exactly,
finger.
yeah.
They'll be like, yo,
it's like a
look at the
dead
hands.
giveaway, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I always look for that. So we'll see what happens, but definitely I think AI is going to like be a cool tool. I think a lot of people are using AI now versus Google. I don't know if you're using a lot of AI tools with what you're doing.
Yes. Yes, I have used AI. I'm trying to think of, oh my gosh, I used AI to create a meal plan once.
No way.
Because I was like, oh, AI, like I have all these ingredients in my
Yeah.
fridge, like create
That's
a meal plan for me.
Yeah.
And sure enough, like it'll be like, oh, day one, like use these ingredients
Yeah.
in your fridge. So
That's super cool,
AI is
right?
really cool.
Yeah.
No, I like AI could actually be really helpful
Yeah.
for a lot of people. You just have to use it responsibly.
Yeah. And also, I think, you know, learning how to prompt it, right? Like your example with the diet, if you prompt it and you say, hey, like you're a nutritionist, you're super versed, you're like, you know, you've done your research, maybe you can plug in like, okay, you've worked here, you studied here. You prompt all that before you start to ask for the information. And then it leverages everything that you prompted before to say, okay, I got that in my history. I'm going to give you advice based on what you prompted me with.
I love AI. In fact, when I went to NAHJ, we went through some of the concerns about AI. Like people
Okay.
are like, well, can you start using AI to write full-length stories? Like,
Yeah.
what could journalists possibly use AI for? And, you know, you could use it to like, you know, edit your stories, like make them shorter, make them longer. But ultimately, you will need a human to verify everything and to
Right.
make sure the sentences are actually flowing and make sure that the information is factual.
Yeah.
Because I think there have been reports where like AI is not necessarily like pulling like factual information. They're just predicting text of like what would just like follow after one word.
Yeah. Doctors are using AI now to detect cancer like super early, because I think before like the success rate was like 30%, maybe even 40% if the doctor was like in a rural area. And now with AI, like they can like match those images versus a doctor having to say, okay, like this is cancer, this is not. Like you could tell like if the person hasn't been like, you know, exposed to a lot of images and stuff like that, it's probably more difficult, right? But having AI, that's like another tool to say, okay, let's match these images and then you'll have a higher success rate.
Well, let me pull up my playlist
Let's
right
do
now.
it. You came prepared.
Yes, no, I did, because I mean, my Spotify has everything I've been listening to.
Are you the type of person that does the Spotify rap and you like,
Yes.
I always geek out with that.
I don't know. I feel like lately Spotify's been letting me down because
Really?
it's just playing the same music I
Okay.
already listening to. Like, it's not introducing
Yeah.
me to anything new.
Speaking of AI, have you experienced with the AI DJ in Spotify?
Yes, I have. I
What do you
have.
think about that?
Sometimes, you know, it'll put together a good playlist
Yeah,
for
but
me.
sometimes not so
But
much.
sometimes not so much.
Yeah.
Like, it'll pull up a song. It's like, hey, listen, like, you've already suggested this
Yeah.
to me like 15 times.
Yeah.
Okay, so Carol G,
Okay.
Karol G, A$AP Rocky, Charlie XCX, Calvin Harris. I started listening to Calvin Harris again. He was like really big for me back when I was in high school. Troye Sivan, and then just like house music. Rosalia, Chaperone.
Do you listen to Deoro? Have you listened to Deoro?
Deoro?
Yeah, he's like a Hispanic DJ, and he mixes like a lot of like Hispanic culture into like EDM. So he remade like La Chona and stuff like that.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, you should check him out.
I should check him out. Yeah. Oh, the Black Eyed Peas. I got back into the Black Eyed Peas because I know they were huge like in the early 2000s.
Yeah.
And then I started listening to their music and I was like, you know what? They were onto something. Like their
That's
music's
awesome.
actually really good.
I really enjoyed the conversation. Anytime you want to swing by, just let me know for sure. I
No,
enjoyed it.
absolutely. Thank you so much for having me.
Awesome. There you have it. Ladies and gentlemen, the super talented Yesenia Jimenez on the Maverick Podcast. In dreams, we trust.